Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now let's get the show started. The distribution of the AstraZeneca vaccines continues across states in Nigeria, while frontline workers have been prioritized in the first phase. Some other citizens have also joined in receiving the jabs. And I am glad to say that what we noticed in the course of the week is that some vaccine skeptics are beginning to come round because healthcare centers are now inundated with people. And sometimes they have to actually book and come a day or two after.
Which was the arrangement that the government put in place in the first place.
Well, thank God people are going out to take the jabs. But are they going out enough? We have with us this morning Dr. Basi Oposen, who's Director, Disease Control and Immunization, NPHCDA, and he joins us from our studio in Abuja. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Alero. Good morning, Nigerians.
Thank you for joining us. Now, I was just speaking my layman's view, about people coming out to take the vaccine. What have you observed regarding people coming out for the jabs?
Okay, just permit me first to sincerely appreciate His Excellency the President for making this happen. The Vice, the Minister of Health, the PTF, the Executive Director of the agency, Dr. Faisal, for making this happen. The vaccine is very scarce, and they made every effort for this to happen. Initially, before the arrival of the vaccine, you bear me witness, there were a lot of negative stories on the media, the internet, every kind of story was going along and around the country that once the vaccine comes, Nigeria, when you take, you fall and die. But thank God that the government made this happen. The vaccine is available, and the vaccination has actually started. And like you have asked, I think what we are seeing happening now is amazing. The president made it an example. Personally, he took the vaccine. The vice presidents, the ministers, the PTF members, the governors, our governors are all out there taking the vaccine cheerfully and happily. And we've not seen anything happen like people were speculating. To further confirm to us that these vaccines are safe, this is one of the things that our Nigerians have seen, our leaders coming out to be good examples. And that is why even those that were not prioritized for this phase are trooping and rushing to the facilities to get the jab. We have even heard of instances where people try to bribe to get the health workers to pay them to vaccinate them. It's exciting. We are happy that this is happening and Nigerians are surrendering to be vaccinated. This will be of advantage to the country because it will contribute to the country having the herd immunity on time. Thank you. Over.
Yeah, Doctor, have you heard tell of any persons who've had side effects? And if you have, what kind of side effects were they?
Okay, I'll put it this way. As good as fish is, as good as milk is, and so many other things, there are some people, if they take those things, the fish, the milk, they can't sleep, they'll have problems. As individuals, we take the vaccine, they are, like you put it, people that will have majorly mild incidences, and a few might have instances that could be scary. And for those mild instances, it ranges from things like pains at the site of the vaccination. Some people will have headache after a few hours after, some might have fever, some feel tired, and the rest of them. And then only a few instances where you hear, oh, they said the person fainted and things like that. And so what we've seen majorly with the vaccinations so far, as at yesterday evening on the electronic platform, the server we are using to capture Nigerians that have been vaccinated. We have vaccinated about 374,585 Nigerians so far, those that have been captured. There are a few others that have been registered, and the various health centers are synchronizing their data on the server. So we have more than that. So what we've seen from this group of Nigerians that have been vaccinated so far is just those mild complaints of the pains at the site, the fever, and so on, which subside after a few hours.
Okay,
So,
Dr. Okwose, I beg your pardon. We need to go on a short break now, come back and continue this conversation with you. Welcome back. Now, Dr. Okwose, you were talking to us about reactions or allergies from those who have taken the jabs.
Yes, what I was saying was that for now, we are hearing more of just those mild complaints being reported. Like some will talk about the pains around the site, which is common for vaccination that are injections, and some complain of tiredness, some complain of headache, some mild fever, and there are a few instances where we've heard, yes, the people tried for out of fear after the injection, when they were put on the bed and they came back a few hours after, and there's not been any serious issue linked to the vaccination received so far. And like I mentioned, as at what we have on the portal around 6 p.m. yesterday, 374,585 Nigerians have been officially vaccinated on the portal. We have many more that have been vaccinated, and the information is being synchronized on the portal, the server. And so we've not had anything that is negative to scare Nigerians from taking the vaccination, as the case was, and as some people are still rumoring around saying, oh, the vaccine is not safe. I want to reassure Nigerians, these vaccines are safe. Personally, I have taken it, and nothing has happened. My chief executive, our minister, the president, the vice president, PTF members, our ministers, our governors have shown good examples, just to reassure Nigerians that these vaccines are safe. And I know there's been a lot of rumors out there that the AstraZeneca is not safe. Just on the 25th of this March, the phase 3 trial that was done in US, Peru, and Chile was out again. It's shown that 79% of people are protected against COVID-19 when they take AstraZeneca vaccine. And this trial was carried out on 32,449 persons. And it also showed that out of this figure that was on the trial, 60% of them even had other comorbid conditions, but none of them was hospitalized, and none of them also died throughout the pandemic so far, which is very good statistics. In UK, where it is the University of Oxford that this vaccine is also being produced. The study also done in UK 3 months after vaccination shows 82% reduction in hospitalization, which is enough to also reassure us. And we've had over 102 countries of the world where their ministries of health have done the necessary investigation and confirmed that these vaccines are safe. So just to reassure Nigerians that these vaccines are safe and will help us to stamp out this pandemic in this country. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Okwose. We'll still take you up on a number of other things. By the way, just so you know, the number one citizen of this program has also taken the vaccine, so I'm the first man of the program. We'll get into all of that a little more. But let me bring in Dr. Ado Mohammed, who is the Global Director, D8 Health and Social Protection Program. Thanks for joining us this morning. Well, you clearly also heard the global outcry about the AstraZeneca vaccine. Of course, there have been, can I say, retractions, and some of the countries have already decided, and some have even returned to taking the vaccines, all over again. What other things do people need to be aware of, or do people need to know to assure them that indeed the vaccines are safe globally?
So can you say it over again because I've missed?
Well, yes, Dr. Mohammed, I'm just asking, I mean, you are not unaware of the outcry, the global outcry about the AstraZeneca vaccine. Some of those countries have returned to taking them. So I just want you to give an assurance to people about what are those things that they need to know about the vaccines to convince them that indeed it is as safe as it's been touted all over the place.
First, let me say good morning, Nigerians, and then let me also appreciate the COVAX. Appreciate COVAX for supporting Nigeria with about 4 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine. For every vaccination, it comes with some risk, but that risk can be mild, it can be moderate, and it could be severe. So far,
Dr. Mohammed, if you can hear me, if you could just mute audio. I guess we lost the connection for now. But Dr. Koza, let me ask you, still on this issue of vaccines, well, maybe this is on the side or something. Over the week, we heard that Nigeria has also developed some, it was a PTF chairman that was making the announcement that Nigeria has also developed some local vaccines and gone into some levels of trials. What can you tell us about that one, very quickly?
Yes, that is also on at the labs in Lagos. And like I mentioned earlier, making reference to AstraZeneca vaccine, where the latest stage 3 trial and what it has shown, the vaccine has to pass through stages of trials, the 5 major stages. And so the vaccines that are being produced in Nigeria are passing through those stages of the trial and is receiving all the support that it needs from the government of Nigeria. And like you rightly said, this year the government has voted some funds to support those projects. We have Nigerians that can do it. Even the Pfizer vaccines we are talking about, the 3 main developers and inventors in Nigeria is part of them. And so we have Nigerians in this country who have the brain and they are doing what they are doing. And like you said, we are currently having the support of the government for this to happen. They will only come to use for the public when it had passed through all the clinical stages, certified by our own NAFDAC, certified by WHO, and then before it will be used on individual human beings. So those are the stages. It must pass through those stages. And like the other question you asked, how can we reassure Nigerians that these vaccines are safe to be used? The AstraZeneca that is available already in the market. And like I mentioned a few minutes ago, the UK government, the EMA, European Medicine Agency, did the studies and they came up with 82% hospitalization rates improvement. The report that came out from the US on the 25th of this March has also come up with the 79% safety prevention against COVID-19, as I mentioned. And I told you 60% of these persons that were on this trial, they were about 32,449. 60% of them had other conditions. At the end of it, none of them died, and none of them was hospitalized for COVID-19 vaccine, which shows a good rate. And you bear with us witness, France, Germany already initially has said they will not take they stopped the vaccination. But seeing the latest results that are coming out, they have returned to the vaccination. And as we are talking, they are also taking the vaccine. And their return to the vaccination program is again contributing a problem to the other countries that these companies have already promised to release the vaccine to, and which is contributing to the current shortfall that we are having globally. So we want to reassure Nigerians, trials that have been done shows the vaccines are safe. They have also seen our leaders and everybody in position of authority, our health workers are taking these vaccines. And all those rumors that we're flying around, we are not seeing them happening. So please, Nigerians, be encouraged to take the vaccines. Over.
Okay. Well, Dr. Mohammed, again, thanks for joining us this morning. No doubt, the vaccine hesitancy thing is nothing new to you. I mean, it's something that comes with the territory, as they say. Taking it on board, I mean, both on a global level, on a continental level, and even on a national level, what are the reactions that you have seen, and how should we be managing them? How have we managed them? What's your assessment of our management so far? And what should we do to convince Nigerians even more?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. And let me also appreciate Channels Television for working on ensuring that we enhance the uptake of COVID-19 vaccine. The vaccine hesitancy and then vaccine conspiracy theory is not new at the global level and it's also not to in Nigeria. First, let me say that every vaccine comes with its own risk. And those risks can be minimal, it can be moderate, it could be severe. But in case of AstraZeneca vaccine, that the vaccine is safe. It came with of course, initially there's some concern about clothing, about bleeding, and then about people reacting to the vaccine, so, but the scientific world, has proven that there is no association between the blood clotting, the bleeding, with the vaccine itself. So in general, I want to say, AstraZeneca vaccine is safe, and encourage people to take it up, and then go to the nearest vaccine to get themselves immunized. At the national level, of course, when it comes to conspiracy theory in respect of vaccine, we are used to it. I've been opportune to be part of the Nigerian immunization program from when it started around 1998, 1999. And we've seen how it played out with polio vaccine. We also have seen how it played out with some of the routine immunization vaccine. And I think what we need to do is that we should take advantage of the infrastructure we've established to debunk the polio conspiracy theory, which is still available and which was used to ensure that Nigerians uptake polio vaccine, and which resulted in the effect for polio in Nigeria. And what is that structure? That structure refers to the community structure which we establish that speaks to traditional institutions, that speaks to religious leaders, that speak to key influencers within every community. We need to bring them on board to make people realize the fact that COVID-19 vaccine is safe. COVID-19 vaccine is the only way that we can, develop population immunity, which in the scientific world is called herd immunity, so that at the end of the day we can resume some certain semblance of normality, And
Dr. Mohammed, on that, perhaps there's a need to educate people a little more on why that is necessary. Because one of the things that fed this vaccine hesitancy until now is that people say, look, what difference does it make? If I take the vaccine, I'm still susceptible to the virus. If I take the vaccine, I still have to wear my masks and use all the non-pharmaceutical initiatives that have been suggested. If I take the vaccine, I can still, and I have the virus, I can still communicate it to other people. It's still communicable from me to other people. So what does the vaccine do, and why is it necessary for everyone to take it when they still have to use the NPIs?
Yes, I think we need to understand the fact that taking the vaccine comes with a lot of advantage. And what are those advantages? First, if a vaccinated individual comes across somebody who's infected and gets infected, it's not likely that that person will get a severe COVID infection. It's also not likely that that person will get symptoms that will lead into taking him to the hospital. It's also not likely that that person may die from COVID-19 infection. That is one advantage. Secondly, taking the vaccination will also ensure that it reduces the transmissibility, from person to the person. Number three, taking the vaccine will also allow the system to build what is known as population immunity, so that we'll be able to achieve at least 70 to 80% population, and that will confer immunity on others that have not taken the vaccine. So it comes with a lot of advantage, and at the end of the day, if we are able to achieve 80%, 70 to 80% immunity for the population, then at least we will have resumed some semblance of normality. But it also does not mean that if one is immunized, we should lower our guard. We should still continue with the non-pharmaceutical guidelines in terms of washing hands, in terms of using face masks, in terms of keeping some safe distances until and when we're able to achieve population immunity. The reason why we encourage people to keep on adhering.
Okay. Well, I'm sure we'll still get him back.
Let's go to Dr. Oposen. Dr. Oposen, we've heard that a certain telecoms company...
So, I think he wants to add a word or two to what we just said.
All right, Doc.
I want to add, for the advantage of taking the vaccines is the fact that generally all vaccines help the individual produce antibodies that when they now are facing the real life situation of the disease, and they are protected against it, they are prevented against it. For the COVID being specific to COVID now, and as I mentioned in the studies that have been done on AstraZeneca, it shows that 79% of individuals that take the vaccine are prevented from coming down with the disease. And it further shows that for those that have taken it, yes, a few percentage of them, the other remaining 21%, came down with it, but they were never hospitalized and none of them died. So you see, when you take the vaccine, you are protected against coming down with the disease, and even if for any reason the few percentages that will come down with it, it becomes mild and not serious. And this can be likened to what we see in measles vaccination, for instance, in children. If 100 children are given measles vaccine, 85% of them will never come back with measles. 15% stand a chance of coming down with measles in the future, but when they come down with the measles, it will be mild, unlike other children that will become severe. And if you give those children a second chance of the vaccination, 95% of them, 95 out of the 100, will never come down with it again. So that is the advantage of taking the vaccines. It prevents us from coming down with the disease, and at the same time, even if, for instance, the person is not fully protected, even if he has the disease, it will be mild, not like seen in some other persons. And you asked the question also, why do we need to wear the face mask? Yes, we are moving around.
On that, Dr. Oposen, just a moment. On that, why do we need to still continue using the MPIs when, even after taking the vaccines? You answer that question when we return from this break. Please stay with us. All right, Dr. Oposen, thanks for staying with us, everyone. So you want to address that question. Please go ahead.
Okay. By still using the face masks and observing other IPC skills, we are doing ourselves and our loved ones good. Once an individual sneezes, coughs, etc., viruses, bacteria, and the rest microorganisms are released into the air space. And the person close to you stands the risk of inhaling them and becoming sick. And likewise, you stand the chance of inhaling from others and getting sick. When that happens, it's not only COVID that is being released. So for you as an individual, because you've taken the vaccine, you say you are not going to use face shield or face mask again, you can be in touch with somebody that is having COVID, get infected, but because you've taken the vaccine, remember we said 79% of them for the AstraZeneca that we're using will not manifest with the COVID disease. Now, those kind of people now become asymptomatic. They will inhale from others and begin to spread because they are not covering, they are using their face shield or masks. So that's why they now become, even though themselves are protected, they become a risk to others. And that's why we advise we still use it. And also, we're protecting ourselves from other diseases we would have contacted from others when we use it. Thirdly, we become good examples to others. Because if somebody is watching you and is saying, oh, it's good to use the face mask, the rest, and then you are not a good example, you won't encourage others. And by everybody using, those who have not had the opportunity of taking the vaccine so far also become protected. So please, Nigerians, let's continue to use our face masks, face shields, and observe other IPC protocols because it helps every one of us to stay safe.
Okay, Doctor, staying with you, approximately 4 million doses came in via COVAX, and we hear that a certain telecoms company has donated 300,000 doses. We also hear tell that another company donated 1 million doses. But there are approximately 100 million people who require this vaccine. So how are we going to source for the balance? Are more corporate companies coming in to help us in this endeavor?
Okay, thank you for the question. Please permit me once again, because this is a very good question you've asked and very sensitive. Permit me once again to thank the government of the Nigeria under the leadership of our President Buhari, and the entire cabinet, the PTF, the Minister of Health, and the Executive Director, MPSD, Dr. Faisal. The areas the country plans to get vaccine and the support we've had from all these people we have had mentioned from one, the COVAX facility. From the COVAX facility, this is the headquarters, the secretariat is domiciled at Gavi, Global Alliance for Vaccine and Immunization. Gavi promises and has given a decision letter and approval to support the country and other eligible countries that benefit from Gavi to support the targeted population, like you've mentioned, with 20% of this population. They are going to give vaccine that will cover 20% of the population. So this is already being covered. This population is already being covered from the COVAX facility. It's from that facility the country received the 3.942 million of the 16 initial batch that we are expecting from the COVAX. In total, this will be receiving about 84 million doses from the COVAX facility, which will vaccinate 42 million Nigerians. That is the promise from an approval from the COVAX facility. That is one area. The second area that the government had also had approval to bring in vaccine to Nigeria to vaccinate Nigerians is the African Union Commission. So from the African Union Commission, already there is an approval for 41 million doses of these vaccines to be brought into Nigeria to vaccinate Nigerians. And then there are also efforts by the minister, the PTF, and the Executive Director, Dr. Faisal, to also they are having bilateral discussions with manufacturers in other companies like the Sputnik V to be able to balance up any deficit that we will observe to vaccinate the targeted Nigerians. So over the next 2 years, we are targeting vaccinating 112 million Nigerians who are vulnerable and are exposed and can have the COVID-19. So these people, from the support we have from the government, we definitely will have these vaccines to vaccinate Nigerians. It's just that this initial phase, because even those skeptics, the countries that were not accepting the vaccination before, they are now back to the drawing board. So there's the pressure, but the world is trying to expand the manufacturing to ensure that these vaccines are produced, and the government is making effort to ensure that all these commitments from the COVAX facility, the commitment from the AU, becomes reality so that Nigerians will be vaccinated. So those are the sources that the vaccines are likely to come in. And then speaking specifically also to the other area you raised, the telecommunication company, that was specifically MTN, they promised to give 1.5 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine to Nigeria. The one that came in on Monday was the first 300,000 that you have just mentioned, donation that has come from them. So we still have a balance of 1.2. And then the other donation that we received so far is that from the Indian High Commission, Indian government. It's not 1 million as mentioned, it's 100,000 doses that they've donated to the government of Nigeria. So those are the ones that have come in so far. Efforts are ongoing, the drive is on. The Executive Director, Dr. Faisal, the Minister of Health, the PTF are doing everything possible to ensure that these vaccines come in from the sources we are expecting them. Thank you, over.
Before we go to Dr. Ado, let me just ask you this question. Are these doses likely to arrive so that people can start taking their second doses in June as you predict?
Yes, for the second dose, what we've done, we have a technical working group that meets every day for about 3.5 months now. And this group is made up of governments and all our partners and all the stakeholders involved in the vaccination. And is chaired by the Executive Director, Dr. Faisal. We have looked at all the availability of the approvals and possibility, the expected arrivals. The first 3.942 million doses that have come in, we are using 50% of it to vaccinate the eligible priority groups. The other 50% will be standby so that whatever the case, even if in case of a delay, we have vaccines to reach out for the second dose of these Nigerians that have so far been vaccinated. And that is why the word out there to our health workers, the state, the leadership at the state level is, please stick to the priority groups that we are targeting for this round. Let's ensure that the frontline health workers and other support staff, both in the government and private clinics, are covered. Let's ensure the frontline workers that are non-health, the specifications that have been given to the states, like the armed forces, the police, the military, the navy, the immigration, the road safety, and all those other arms of the government that have a day-to-day interactions with Nigerians have been prioritized. And then there are a few states with the doses we have received so far that have gone to the state that a few of those doses that the analysis that have come out that have gone to those states, yes, might be a little over what we need for those frontline workers. Then those are the states that we have asked and requested that they prioritize the elderly, 50 years and above, that are at risk to give with excess. So the counseling generally is we are not giving more than 50% of what we have received so that we have the dose standby to give the second dose once it is time. And once the other additional vaccines and deliveries are received as planned, we will expand the vaccination to other groups. Thank you, over.
I was hoping to bring back Dr. Ado Mohammed, Global Director, DH Health and Social Protection Program, to help address a thing or two, especially from the global perspective, because we understand that there are a number of countries who, because of the scarcity of the vaccines all over the world, they have had to extend the time between which the second doses is to be given to their citizens. So, for instance, if the first jab has been collected by one person, and another jab is to be collected in a number of weeks to follow, because of the scarcity of the vaccines, some of them are not able to, there's an extension. So Dr. Mohammed, if you can join us again, thanks for joining us. If you can speak to that, The scarcity of the vaccines all over the world is making some countries to make adjustments to the vaccine calendar. Do you see that kind of thing happening again, or how do we solve that problem? Because the risk, we understand, is if you take a first jab and you don't take a second jab as and when expected, it renders the first jab useless.
Let me start by saying that that is not correct. If you do not take a second jab, it does not render the first jab useless. Science has proven that by the time you take the first jab, you can stay for as long as 12 weeks before you take the second jab. Yes, I do know that yes, so AstraZeneca vaccine, it says 28 days. For Pfizer, it says 21 days. But with what is happening now, with the scarcity of vaccine itself, countries are adjusting the second jab. For example, in the UK now, the priority is to give the first jab to as many eligible and high-risk individuals as possible. And they are spacing the second jab for 12 weeks after the first jab. So I think for us in Nigeria, we can also look at that scenario to get as many people immunized as possible. Because with the first jab, you get some 60% protection, you know, and that will also allow you to immunize some other people, you know. So it's important that we look at the total number of vaccines we have. We look at the number of eligible Nigerians that need to be immunized. And then we also look at how effective it will be to just concentrate the few vaccines we have on few individuals, as against widening it to include as many individuals as possible. I think, considering the circumstances we are in now, we may have to prolong and extend the second jab beyond the 21 days for AstraZeneca vaccine. We can take it as long as 12 weeks so that we immunize as many people as possible on the next additional immunization. Having said that, let me just clarify, shed some more light on what the gentleman from the National Primary Care Development Agency has said, in respect of why people have to continue using the non-pharmaceutical methods even after receiving the first jab. So, in addition to what he has said, we also need to protect people that have not been immunized. Because getting immunized with the first jab does not confer 100% protection. It only provides certain percentage of protection. And because it provides some certain percentage of protection, you can still get infected even after you receive the first jab. But it protects you from getting severe illness. It also minimizes the transmissibility of the virus. But in addition, I think we need to also understand that it allows us an opportunity to develop population immunity, so that people that have not been immunized will be protected until and when we attain about 70% population immunity, 70% people are immunized and attain population immunity, so that will not confer immunity on others that have not been immunized. So in addition to what that gentleman said, the take is for us to know that it also allows the system to develop population immunity to protect others that have not been immunized. But we have to attain at least 70 to 80% coverage.
Dr. Mohammed, staying with you, the concerns, one of the things that, you have also expressed, in time past is the global collaboration, especially collaboration among African countries in these terms. Well, clearly one of the things that a number of people will be wondering is, what if I get a date and I need to travel abroad before the date I'm supposed to take the vaccine? What happens? Because we understand that if you're making an international travel, you have to take the vaccine and have a proof that you've taken, show a proof that you've taken the vaccine. What if that happens?
The vaccine passports, vaccination passports that is being attacked will only come into effect if all countries agree. And as it is, just a few countries are talking about that. In fact, the WHO, has not really endorsed that yet, because it goes against fundamental human rights. Because people have a choice not to accept the vaccine. You'll be going against people's fundamental human rights, to insist that people must be vaccinated before they travel. That goes against human rights, and that is the angle a number of organizations are coming from, But I think what is important is that instead of compelling people to take the vaccine with conditionalities, with conditions, I think we should make concerted effort to create demand for the vaccine. And in creating demand for vaccine, it allows people to voluntarily, on their own, go and get the jab. And I think that is the angle we are advocating, that we should create demand. And how do you create demand? You need to make people understand the benefits of getting the jab. You also need to make people understand that the benefit of getting the jab outweighs the risk of any side effects, And then you also need to understand that when people get the jab, it protects them, it protects their family. And also, it also opens up the economy and that allows people to come back to normality in terms of life and livelihoods. So that is the angle I think we should come from, instead of insisting that people must get the jab before they travel. So it shouldn't be a kind of it shouldn't be used as a tool of blackmail. We should create demand. We know that the benefits that comes to the vaccination outweighs the risk of side effects. So we need to just work with the appropriate community structure, work with the appropriate advocacy platform to ensure that we create demand for this vaccine so that people get immunized.
But airlines are also talking about no vaccine passport, no flight. So you can't enter their aeroplanes except you show them a vaccine passport. And Qantas seems to be leading the charge because they become operational. I think theirs becomes, it's effective from April. Suppose other airlines jump on board and say you cannot fly through them except you have a vaccine passport.
So that will not depend on the individual. I think it's important because if airline makes it a condition, I'm sure that will have been they will have consulted the countries, the respective countries that they're traveling to. So if that is the condition, then people will be compelled, because if you want to travel, of course, every country wants to protect itself. Every country wants to protect itself. We can see how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected livelihoods. It has affected life. It has also, affected economy. So no country having, controlled the virus within its territory will want to be infected. So it all depends on the countries. While some countries might insist that before anybody comes into their shore, that person must be immunized. Some other countries might not do that. So it depends on, individual country. But as it is, there is what is known as reciprocal diplomacy. If a country A insists that citizens of country B should get the jab, get the passport before coming into the country, then country A also has the right to insist that, look, if that is the condition we're giving, then
just a quick one. Are you seeing, because you touched on the human rights infringement here, are you seeing human rights litigations as a result of this?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you say it again? I missed the last part.
I said, do you see a possibility of people, putting in human rights abuse cases all over the world as a result of this?
Definitely. I see that happening. Because you cannot, I'm a strong advocate of immunization. I'm a very strong advocate of immunization. And for me, I will encourage as many people to get immunized. But, it also has the human rights dimension angle. My own approach to immunization is to create demand
Okay. All right.
Not compare.
Just a quick one. Yes, thank you. We have to go in a bit, but Dr. Oposen, does Nigeria have that position saying you don't take the vaccines, you don't come into the country?
Please, let me add to some of the sensitive issues raised here. The government of Nigeria has made provision in the vaccination program for people who are vaccinated to be scanned at the airport by the airline. That is why the card issued to Nigerians has a QR code on it. The QR code was developed by the Minting and Printing Company of Nigeria. There is a QR code on the card that once you are successfully vaccinated, is scanned and saved. At the airport, if it is scanned, it will show you've been vaccinated. It will show the vaccines you took. It will show the date you took the vaccine, your status of vaccination. That provision has already been made for all Nigerians. We mentioned earlier 374,585 Nigerians were automatically registered on the server that has QR code. There are about 580 something that have been vaccinated, and the synchronization of the code is ongoing. So just want Nigerians to know that that provision has been made. And please, when you go to the health facility for your vaccination, insist the health workers capture your data properly, scan the QR code so that you will not be embarrassed at the airport. The provisions are there. And the vaccination, of course, we plead with Nigerians to go out to receive the vaccination. And on the other issue that you raised earlier, is it because of scarcity that the extension
I'm sorry to
is
cut
given
you short,
from
but
21?
we've run completely out of time and we have to go now. Thank you very much. Dr. Basio Oposen, Director, Disease Control and Immunization, MPHCDA. We also had Dr. Ado Mohammed, Global Director, D8 Health and Social Protection Program, who joined us via telephone. Thank you very much, doctors, for coming to enlighten us this morning on the vaccine distribution. Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us.